Well, I introduced Dr. Adley, superintendent.
We've done that.
So then you're all just turning it over to me?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
We are all yours.
I just want to say, first of all, thank you, because this is my first time as part of the group, and I appreciate everybody's participation on this exciting project. Mike's historical knowledge has been invaluable along the way. Dr. McGettigan is here also. She is an instructional technology director for us, and she oversees libraries and so on and so forth, so you'll get a wee sense of that. I want to say I'm tremendously excited about these projects, as you would think and hope I would be. These are aligned to the 2016 KG&D study, the condition study for the building, so that served the high school well, it served Oxford well, it'll serve us well in this capacity. And obviously you've got the conceptual map that we have from Northeast Collaborative is sort of, that's all it is, it's relatively a conceptual map. I welcome you back to the schools today. Some of you have been in the schools before, some of you may have not been in them, sort of like moving around too far beyond the cafeteria or the main office or the principal's office or otherwise, or your classroom. But welcome back to school, so to speak, a little bit. And tonight we'll give you a wee sense of the spaces and the concepts of actually what you have on paper and try to bring those to life a little bit. So that's really, I think, the purpose. And I just want to say that the impetus of this was, first of all, removal of the portables. Ever since I got here, that's what I've been told by the community. That's what the board also wanted. It was really removing those portables. Additionally, right-sizing any classroom spaces. So if there's classroom spaces that were significantly undersized, we would be resizing those. That's not necessarily the case in this building per se, because they're of a good size. And then the third sort of priority was to look at the libraries and bring them up to speed, so to speak. Some of our libraries are in very poor condition. This one is not in poor condition, so it will be more a renovation type thing. But the idea would be to turn them from a media center into learning commons. So those are the three big guiding principles, but you've probably discussed those in the committee meetings to this day, but I just want to reiterate those. And we're excited to share some spaces with you. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, so the original building here is from 1932, and it had an addition put on in 1996. There were 2 wings, which had a total of 20 classrooms. And then there were, in 1997, they added the kitchen and the cafeteria on this side of the building. 2008, they put the portable up over here, the blacktop area. There's 2 rooms. The portables are used for music. There's 2 music rooms in there. So removing the portables means that space has to be built to accommodate the music rooms. Because this building has these 20 classrooms from 1996, it doesn't have the same need that Royal and Hindley have as having a large number of undersized classrooms. In fact, it doesn't, because there's 3 classrooms in the existing building that are also correctly sized. So there's only a need to add 2 full-size classrooms in this building, convert 1 classroom, which already has an auxiliary use going on in it, make that into offices, and then add some additional office and small instruction space and a music room. The library is just about the 3,000 square foot limit that they want to see at the libraries in the district. The heating system in this building, well, first let me get to the easy part, the ventilation system. The 1932 building has no ventilation system, so to speak. It had an older system from 1932, which you can see the grills on the outside of the building. There's about 18 unit ventilators that are 90 years old that don't really work at all. There are unit ventilators in all the classrooms and exhaust fans that all work, which where most of your classrooms are concentrated here. So the idea with the infrastructure renovation is to change from steam heat to hot water heat and to upgrade the ventilation so that you have centralized heating and air conditioning. So you would have perimeter radiation for your basic heat, and then you would have rooftop units, which would be heating and air conditioning, or tempered air, just fresh air, during several months of the year. And the other issue in this building that has been talked about is additional parking. That's also mentioned in the report, and in this building, they talked about possibly asking the town for use of the Curtis property to expand the parking lot over on this side, and maybe adding some more diagonal parking spaces over on the other side where the bus loop is. This building's in good shape. It's sited correctly on the property. It's a very well-built building. And so that's about it. We can walk out back and I can show you where the portable is located and where they're, one idea of putting an addition on the building has been raised, and then we can go into the library. I don't think anybody really wants to go to the boiler room, do you?
No. Feel like a minute.
So as we go around or we end up in places, you've got Paula who's the principal, I'm here, Michael's here, we can field questions, and Joan is here. If whatever questions come up, we'll be happy to field those as they come up.
Okay, so we can walk out this door here, we'll see the portable, and we can walk back in the back of the building.
Hey, Mike,
Yes, sir.
is this perimeter radiation going to stay? And it's just the boiler
Yes.
that's going to change?
Yeah,
So it
the
won't be
newer parts
replaced.
of the building have hot water pumps, and they have a heat exchanger. So the steam heats the water, and then the water circulates in the 96 and the 97 parts.
And then will you take out these window units and replace with rooftop HVAC?
Yes. Yeah, the window units will come out.
Window units with
You know what, the heat is gonna be ready. Stop working right around then, so.
I have actually, I found
In this building here, I got
Paula, are you gonna go in?
My girl's coming. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, we can go in one.
So typically, well, first of all, typically in these rooms, you're going to have band music. In some cases, small intervention classes. Over the last couple of years, we've used them for a couple of different things. But as you look at the three schools, they're typically used for those. So since they have to come into the building, you'll see in the concept map that it suggests renovation for the music room, because typically this is where they are.
Right,
Do you
what
have
they're
any more
used
than
for.
that, or?
Nope, I mean, this is our general music room where all the kids in the school go for music. And then next to it is our band and orchestra room for the older students. And then, like Dr. Adley said, sometimes we'll do small groups in one of those rooms if they're not being used at the time, so.
So, there you go.
Mike's holding the door, so we better go.
They don't look very portable, they look pretty permanent.
Well, that's the problem with them, right? Well, like this portable. We had a problem with the rooftop unit here.
So, I mean, they have to practice
And
them.
the solution was, we had to put in these wall-mounted things like you'd see in a hotel room. Because you couldn't get the parts. Like this one's still the old one. And I think there's one more here we did like this. So, it's felt that the fire department, who expressed interest, they probably want this piece, because it's got the new heating and ventilating. But the other room next door, it's a mirror image of this.
Is this owned or rented?
This is owned. We bought them, they were rented by another school district for 2 or 3 years. And then Darien bought them in '09 and installed them here. But they're from '07 or '06.
Mike mentioned that the fire department may want to use it up at the training center. And apparently this one is on, still on rails and wheels underneath the.
All of them are, yeah, there's a set of axles here, and one set over there.
They divide in the middle where that plate crosses, so they can divide them up and get.
Yeah, you can go underneath and unbolt this and then unbolt it through here and take some siding off and they'll separate right out. But the tow hitch,
Yep,
the
the tongue.
V-shaped tongue
Yep.
and the wheels and everything, they're sitting underneath
Yep.
for all 4 units.
Is it clear in the scope, as we know it right now, to what extent all of this kind of paving and site work will be redone and replaced? As far as-
That'll come out with, that wasn't so much in the ed spec, but that'll come out when they start going into schematic design and there's an actual design pick.
Yeah,
One of the designers that, from the building condition survey, their recommendation was to take the first 2 classrooms on this side and make them the music room, expand that wall out a little, and then add some classrooms on the other wing on the other side, 2 downstairs, 2 upstairs. So there's different, all kinds of different ideas. So
Yeah.
but when they hit that, and the idea, we talked about it at the building tour on Saturday, is if I'm going to take up a portable and the blacktop underneath it, and I'm going to maybe get rid of a library and add an addition, ideally, I'd want my impervious surface to be less square feet, because that takes away, a lot of your drainage problems and zoning issues. This property drains very well.
I was gonna say, you had discussed parking issues before. Is this too close in proximity to the school for this to be an option, additional parking once this is
Yeah,
removed?
because you have to drive around the whole building to get into it. There's
No, I mean, if they made it like a cutout almost, an
Well-
extension of that lot, I should say.
There's not enough room
Okay.
from the edge of the building where the kitchen stops over there.
Yep.
It's a severe drop off. There's
Yeah.
a stream at the bottom of that
Yeah.
drop
is
off.
that the Curtis property on the other side of that fence, or?
Yeah.
No, it's the other side of the stream, actually. When we go out there, you see that the property drops way down.
Yeah,
And then starts up. Where it starts up, that's the Curtis property starting.
And Mike, refresh my memory right now, the Curtis property is not really used for anything, right? The town's just bought it.
It's not, the town,
Town bought it and
Bought it.
is letting it sit.
yes, the town has it.
Okay.
Yeah, they're letting it sit. The house that was on there was torn
and when
down.
we do the surveys that are, I don't know if you've ordered them or who's doing that, but are we getting that whole property surveyed? And are we viewing this as like a comprehensive, total acreage potential for the project? Or are we excluding that and cutting the survey off at that fence line
No, the Curtis property is a square
inside the whole thing?
surrounded by school district property on
Okay.
all sides. And
I
there's
think
a,
you survey the whole thing.
yeah, so
Gonna
it's,
survey
it's
the
gonna
whole
be
thing.
the whole property getting surveyed all the
What
way
I
down
just
the
saw,
back
there
of
probably are
the
wetlands in there.
Yeah, there's a stream that runs all the way down, and in the back there's
Yeah,
a lake. And
okay.
we actually own up to, near that lake, down in the back.
That's gonna add
But
to complexity.
Yeah, it's the Curtis property, it's totally surrounded by school district property. They had a right of way to come across the parking lot to come in and out of their house. So,
Mike, could you, whenever we go outside, could you, I don't know how you do it, right, but just, I think the concept, the first concept that's on the table, which could be changed, right, obviously, sort of,
yeah,
sort of
that.
like starts here and sort of
Yep.
comes around the corner a wee bit, just to give a wee
I'm
sense.
gonna show them the Curtis property.
Well, presumably, we're gonna get a lot more detail on this when we get the preliminaries from
Right.
the survey.
Thank you.
Preliminary. They're gonna make proposals as to how they would act.
Right.
You know?
That's it?
Yeah, so if you look at the drawings that were in, look at the drawings that were in the report from, right here. Yeah, so we're actually here. Right, that was the plan.
This is just internal.
Yeah, so that's what
Bigger music room, hallway going outside. Another one shows, from that, and then from
Yeah, this is
one
mine.
to, this is the first floor. The dark gray is showing one.
In this one
Which, yeah, this guy's got it. That's correct. Yeah, this is like the NCA. So, on the drawings that you guys got, the report from NCA, the addition to the building comes off the back here, and then comes this way towards where I am, and loops back around, and so you would have a slightly protected area back here for
Outdoor classroom.
an outdoor classroom of some sort, and still have access in and out from the cafeteria. Now, if the Curtis property is over here, you want to see what, you'll hear about it.
Good. All inventory is kind of short for everybody right now, but everything's going okay. Yeah, so it's funny, our mouse store had like something we had.
It's about 10 feet off the edge of that blacktop roadway,
I mean, of the ones I've seen.
and it comes down to about where you're standing, and goes over that way. And there's a small section about 20 feet between the other side of the Curtis property and the neighbors over there. And that's it. It's a square that sits in there. It goes up towards the those trees there.
But that's now part and parcel of, that's a school district property, or town
No,
property.
it's the town property.
Town property.
Yeah, I mean, they just call it the Curtis property. That's
But
where they
even
got
when you
it.
go on the zoning map, I didn't see, like, I just see one giant square for this property.
Yeah, there's
I don't
some
see it as,
maps
like, a
I've seen
separate-
that's like that, and there's other ones where you can see that there's a little square
Oh, really?
in the middle
The survey would
of.
presumably show the fence line and.
But I would just think in this whole process, like, there should be a cleanup where it just gets consolidated into one.
I would think.
Ownership,
Right.
you know,
Well, you can consolidate I think the town already owns it.
yeah.
Yes, they
Right,
do.
so I think,
From like a lot line and everything.
right, but it has, yeah, it's a matter of whether they can allocate it to the school and this gets integrated into the school property for use.
Yeah, it's similar to the
Yeah, it's a
town
county.
owns where the senior center was, and it's right adjacent to Middlesex, but, you know, Middlesex has no use for that.
But how much further is this property that the town owns, like beyond the Curtis? Like, does it go?
It goes pretty much to that fence line over there by those houses.
Okay.
Runs all the way down a straight line.
Really?
And then it goes down this way a bit.
And that's, wow,
That's all the school property, yes.
school, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the school property with a little square
It's
that
just
the town
unused.
has.
I mean, would the school want that to be integrated into school property for fields or
You know, if
other
the,
uses?
if the designer came up with a reasonable concept that, you know, made sense, yes.
So why can't
Sure.
I just rip the front out and excavate it, level grade it, get the drain off and make those parking spaces above those trees?
Well, you could, but that's, you know, that,
If the town okays
if
it.
the, yeah, we had it in our 5-year capital plan as something to do probably like 2 or 3 years out from now. But a couple, I guess it was last year, we incorporated everything we felt in the capital plan, mimicked something that was going to be in the,
Did somebody survey for
edition.
how many spots you could get in that area?
yes, we did have that survey by Ty and Bond.
Okay.
And I'm trying to remember exactly, he even gave us a price that we put in the budget at the time. But everything that we felt would be touched by this building committee, we took out of the capital budget, but it was in there to do that. I don't remember the number of spaces. Do you, Paula? I don't.
That can be used for a staging area, right, during construction area?
Permission from the town, sure, yeah.
Since you have that, Sonia, will you send it to us when
Sure.
Thank you.
Do you want to see the library?
Yeah, we should. This is called the Curtis property, you said?
Yes.
Yeah, CURTIS.
Well, I mean, it's just
I don't think so either.
music for. So we were trying to.
One over there.
Yeah.
I gotta get this emblem on this.
We have an artist.
We do?
We do.
Okay, good.
I think we're waiting for warmer weather. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So Mike will give you the details of this, but this space itself is pretty adequate in the sense of over time things have been built into it that really shouldn't be there per se, right? This is small group instruction, IDEAs, and interventions and support, but this type of thing shouldn't really be here. But this space is a fairly large space. It's the utilization of the space, so it'll be sort of renovated and updated. Joan is our Director of Information Technology, Instructional Technologies, also oversees the library. I'm going to ask her just, I'm not going to ask her to bore you to tears right here, but just to literally give succinctly, like, what's the components of the new libraries, which are very consistent with Tokenique and Oxbridge, particularly Oxbridge, the new building that's being built. So the equity of programming is across all the schools, but Joan, could you just give people a sense of, like, what the major components of this library would be?
Sure. I'll give you the 30-second overview. So moving from a traditional library to a library learning commons means that you are opening up a space to serve multiple purposes. So maybe when you were growing up, you would come to the library just to check out a book. But instead, a learning commons is so much more. So you need a space that is instructional, because our librarians actually teach classes. You need a space that is creative, a space that is a maker space, a space for coding, robotics, a space that you can collaborate together, a space that is, if you will, a performance space. So for younger students, that's reading stories aloud. It's usually graduated seating. So it's a space that serves many different needs for the community. So far beyond just coming to check out a book and develop that love of reading. Okay?
So just quickly from it, just so we understand why this change is happening, you said librarians do instruction. What are they teaching?
Librarians teach so many things today. It's incredible. I was just going through a list today with 2 of them. So they teach, of course, different aspects of digital citizenship, as you would expect. They also teach different ways that you can access reliable information. How do you use the database? How do you find the right resource? They teach the different genres of books and how a library is organized, which is really important to develop that independence so they can find books that interest them. They teach coding, robotics, different elements of makerspace. They teach different aspects of collaboration, different aspects of creation. It's really an endless list of the things that they are responsible for, but really this space serves as the hub of the school. So everything comes into it and everything is directed out.
So the preference is to not have a separate room like that, to have just a more open space with all those elements.
Yeah, that room was added on when you go back to the early 1990s to late 1990s. The computer lab was in the library. They took a spot in the library and made it a computer lab. So in the case of this, because of the high ceilings, what they did was they bought a modular room, demountable room, and built it into this corner of the library.
So the concept that we've talked about, not that this is the one, but is to remove this little office and reconfigure that and take this out. And so it opens the space way up.
Is there any thought of making this partially 2 floors in here with like an open
One of
space to it?
one of the people who worked on the 2016, he discussed that for this space and for middle school. The idea that you could do that. So this space here, when the building was built, this was the auditorium, and next door was the gymnasium, and they shared a floor. It came out about maybe 12 feet from that wall was that's the proscenium, the remains of the proscenium arch over there, running along the back wall there. Okay, and then the stage was behind it, but it had, the out portion. And so, even though they've leveled this floor and put carpeting in, it's still wood over there. So when you're playing basketball in the gym, you can't use this side of the library for any sort of quiet reading or studying because the noise transmits right through the floor. So one of the challenges is to disassociate the 2 floors. And it's very possible to do. It's an engineering job. And the idea is to do that, and then like Dr. Adley said, get rid of this, reconfigure the workspace, and then reconfigure this space. And so that's about it for this building. Like I mentioned before, there is ventilation in the new wings. In each classroom, there's new rooftop units in the I didn't mention that before, but there's new rooftop units in the cafeteria and the kitchen. They're not air conditioning, but they are heating and ventilating, and they're within the last couple of years. It's this main part of the building here that has steam heat and poor to no ventilation.
Besides the boiler room, which would be something we might not be doing today, the electrical work would be the next kind of big piece, right?
Yes, this building had a new electric service installed in 1996, and it's actually sized correctly and with room for expansion. It's a 1200, instead of an 800, it's a 1200 here. So normally a building this size, you'd have between 12 and 16. If we had new rooftop HVAC units, you probably would have to upgrade the electric, but most of the electrical infrastructure in this building is, 25 years old, not 80 or 90.
Does the state provide any funding incentives if EV charging stations are put in here at all?
Not at this time. We looked into that for Oxbridge, and they don't at this time.
Just forward thinking too, though, if you're going to
Yes.
upgrade. If
Yeah, put
there's
the
an
conduit and
opportunity-
bull wire in the ground now.
Well, but even upgrading the unit, I mean, that's what we're having to do at our businesses,
Yeah.
is we're redoing everything and upping the amperage.
Sure.
Just because it's going to happen over the next 10 years.
And we're sure of that too. And so, that's something that anybody coming in to do design work that you guys would hire is going to have that in their toolbox of something,
The question for the state and reimbursement for this project is how they consider it.
Okay.
The major advantage we got going for it, I think, is the fact that all of these schools that are being renovated have portables, and they do not like portables, right? They're very supportive of it. They're actually surprised that they exist nowadays. So that is one of the advantages, probably the biggest one in terms of getting state reimbursement, because one of the things sometimes that it's not popular with them is adding on bits and pieces, but these buildings are so sound that we can do what we need to do, to be honest with you. So that's just we'll see how that plays out with them when we have some early discussions.
Okay.
All good?
Yeah.
Okay. We head over to Royal.
Everybody know where they're going, okay? Right across from the first one.
Thank you.
133 Mansfield.
Thank you. We've got 3 portable sets of portables out the back that are scheduled to be removed. When you see the library in this case, I think you'll get a wee better sense of, it's just not up to where the educational standards should be for all of our kids. And then this school has probably the most of the classrooms that are sort of being right size. And the actual proposed concept of where the construction work is at the end, right at the end of the hallway, all that block being removed, and what happened before, which was the music rooms and so on and so forth, will be built there with new classrooms as well. So that's the basic status of it. If we want to go somewhere to start with, we can.
Yeah, before we take a walk, one of the constraints on this property is that the building is situated squarely in the middle. And so the idea of, oh, we could build another school while this one operates doesn't really exist here because there's not enough room. This thing's too close to any side or edge or front or rear that you wouldn't be able to run another school. This would, and that's just something, but the original part of the building, which actually starts right around the corner here, is very well built. And these 1996 additions, they're very well built also.
What year was the school built?
The original school is 1947, 48. It was built, same architect, built Hindley, and then they built this building. So there's a lot of similarities in the basic structure of the original building. The 96 additions were the same contractor, the same architect. And they're well, like I said, they're well built, the classrooms are of great size, they're light, they're airy, they're bright, they're well ventilated.
Is that architect still around?
The one that did the 96 edition, I have asked him, he doesn't really do school work anymore, he doesn't do work in Westchester. I asked him when we were looking at Ox Ridge, I asked him when we were looking at the cafeteria at the high school. Excuse me? He does some Connecticut work, but not educational. You know, he does like businesses, office buildings, and residential. But
Does he have any resources that our architects might be able to use, or do you feel like you've got a good enough set of as-built and mechanicals?
I've got a good enough set. In 1996, the main mechanical they did was they put a sprinkler system in the buildings, and they upgraded the oil burners and boilers at Hindley. These other buildings were upgraded later. Homes in this building were upgraded in 2008, 2007. They weren't done at the same time.
What's the HVAC situation here?
The what?
HVAC or lack thereof?
Similar to homes in Hindley, this part of the building has exhaust fans in the bathrooms, the classrooms, the elevator shaft, the kitchen, etc. It's all good. The original part of the building just has perimeter radiators. It has radiators, doesn't have radiators. It has radiators in the classrooms and the hallways, and ventilation is, open a window. Put the vent on the window air conditioning unit, put it on ventilation. That's your powered ventilation in those rooms. And then you go down the stairs, there's a common room, and the gym, and the kitchen, the cafeteria. They have ventilation units. They all operate, and they're fresh air, heating and ventilated, no air conditioning. We've gotten those all working. So they all work, they're tied into the building management system. It's 1947 technology with, 2012 electronic controls operating the dampers and the heating valves. So there is some level of comfort and powered ventilation in those three spaces. And then there's a 4-classroom 1958 edition way down on the back. And that has no ventilation. It has 2 exhaust fans in the hallway and one over the 2 bathrooms.
So with this renovation, put new HVAC in the whole building, or only in the portions that are being renovated and added?
That's really up to you guys, but the hope is the whole building. You're renovating a building, 1996, HVAC is you know, it was 26, 27 years old.
I don't recall, is that in the RFP that the architects got? Was the plan around that?
Well, it's in the ed specs.
The ed specs, okay.
Yes. And, you know, it'll be talk to, you know,
No, that's fine, I just wanted to understand in very broad strokes what the scope of that is going to be.
yep. And so when you take a walk down the hallway, one thing to keep in mind when you think of yourself as like a second or third grader up on the second floor, and you have to go to music. And the walk you have to make to get there, and the occupancies you have to go through. You got to go through kindergarten, you got to pass the main office, you got to pass pre-K, the gym classes that are just to get to music. Yeah, great exercises.
And gym class on the way.
Music, phys ed combined.
It's efficient.
No, I know.
What for this building is based on the pharmacy building, right?
So these are the ELP classrooms
From Parliament.
along here.
Really?
They'll
Yeah,
revert back to
so
the
they were
school.
brought over, and you can see some of them, there's actually a plaque
Year
up there
two.
too, but we have the name.
Starting
actually.
at 23.
Oh, after Oxford, yeah. So that's,
After Oxford fully
do
opened.
you want to explain that part, why
Yeah,
that's
it's
really
really
to
cool.
get Oxford up and running?
Yes. So part of the plan, when Oxbridge gets moved in totally for September of 2023, these four, it's actually 5 separate spaces, the ELP rooms that are here are going to go to Oxbridge. And so that frees up these spaces for instructional use. And the classrooms that are not the correct size, that are a little undersized, are on the second floor of this building. And the classrooms that get downward, and the custodians walking down there, they are, the one thing they have going for them is they've got good size. They got poor insulation, poor heating, poor ventilation, constructed 60-something years ago. They're just, but they are good size. So this is the library down here. This space here,
Yeah, we do allow the children to leave.
this is where the old building ended. This was the main entrance until they built this in 1976. They built this library, and they had a classroom off to the side, small classroom.
Very interesting background.
What's that?
They're interesting.
They are.
You got a couple of
It's from like the original construction.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And this is the library office right here.
Oh, shall I get that?
Does it have, there we go, got it. I was gonna say sometimes it's a, it's a little temperamental. Yeah, okay.
This library has, we put the window air conditioners in it. The windows are pretty drafty, they're single pane glass. It's got rooftop exhaust system, and it has heating, it has perimeter heat a little, but most of the heating comes from up above. There's a heating unit in a mechanical room over here. It gets hot water from the boiler room, and it shoots it out these ducts. Yeah, that's the heat. This room is, it's a very chilly room, it's a very drafty room. It's undersized. I think, Joan, we came here and tried to figure out where we would put stuff if this were to be repurposed. And just didn't have the space to begin with.
I don't remember the plans off the top of my head. Is it proposed to, does anybody remember or have it on them? Is it proposed to get larger or?
Both proposals from this, from the NCA proposal and from the building condition survey, all those proposals talked about this room being demolished and a new library being constructed.
You walk down this hallway.
Yep.
There's the library here. You walk right down this hallway. This is the big library.
I see.
Construction.
What's the approximate square footage now of this?
It's about 2,200,
2,200, and we're looking to hit between,
27 and 3.
yeah.
Yeah.
This just, honestly, this is, outlived this time. At one point it served this time. It's just not what, instructionally, curricular-wise, is really necessary at this point.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah. I think, I don't know, Jill, do you remember when the building condition survey, one of the drawings he showed coming out from that corner and making a courtyard here and having the library over there on that corner, like looking out that way? And you could access, and then you could access it from like multiple sides. You could get to, yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of different, and we walk further down the hallway, you could see, you know, one of the plans somebody had years ago when we were looking for the 5-year condition survey people was to build a new kitchen and cafeteria off the side and convert the lower level to some academic space. You know, there's like, I just want to make sure the committee's aware there are hundreds of different iterations that, you know, the design teams are going to come back at you with.
Yeah, I guess looking at the plan and it being all the way down there, you made the point, A, that everybody has to already walk all the way down there, and the point was made that the library is the central hub of the school. So why put it all the way at the opposite end of where everybody is? So here is already I mean, I guess there's the benefit of demolishing this and building that, not having the two separate spaces.
Yeah, and well, when we get to Henley, you'll see one guy showed us a plan one time of demolishing the library where it is and building a right-sized library out the back where the portables are. And building classroom wing somewhere else needed, but you know, it's just different idea. And that way his concept was keep the library in the middle of the building.
Yeah, that's why I'm curious to hear from principal and yourself of what your guys' view is, because ultimately you're the experts on that part of it.
You know, as Mike said, there's so many different options that are available, so what was drawn was, this is one possibility.
Got it.
So would we love to have it in the center? We would, if that is something that works with everything else that comes along. Our concern mostly is making sure that we have the right size so that we can have all of those different zones that come along with having a library learning commons.
I think a piece of it too to keep in mind as we move forward in the process is what else will be a part of that build. So some of the considerations that we've already talked about is putting a music space in there, soundproofing and things like that, being close to different instructional spaces in the library for sure. So just another consideration as all of these plans come forward.
Thanks.
We can walk down further and we see.
I used to go here. I don't know about the story about him, but
They came from Harlem, run down there.
really,
They have a plaque down here on the side.
Okay, so one of the problems with this building is the change in elevation.
Stop there.
So to get from here to there, there's a handicap accessible chairlift in this little room over here that goes down and lets you out in the gym. If this becomes ramp, these two doorways get moved down to the other end of the building. Or you eliminate these and cut back this way. And you lose bathroom and an office space. So it's got to be laid out on how to do it, but you have to put some sort of ramping here. Either from here to here or from there back that way. And you get 1 foot for every inch of height difference. You have to have a 1 foot a run. So you need 30 feet?
Yeah.
Right? So this building,
Yeah, I have previously about making this more ADA compliant so that we would be.
this building is unique as far as an elementary school in Darien, and it has a separate cafeteria from the common room. So you can use the common room for other things, book fairs, music, etc., and not interfere with lunch or gym, because it's a totally separate room. It's the only elementary like that in the district. And when you come And if you saw the gargoyles, this sign here tells you where they came from and what they're, I think it was House of London?
Yeah.
Parliament, House of Parliament in London.
Oh,
Even
yeah.
Even cooler.
The only elementary school that has gargoyles.
So this is
They
where the
came from
building
Parliament, they
ended.
relocated, a family donated them to us, yeah.
Yeah. This is where the building ended, the original building. And this part was added on in 1958. And has a very small electric service for the size of the building. This and Hindley are both, and Oxbridge were all very undersized for the size of the building. It has a generator. The generator is fairly new.
It's actually full contact rugby, you know?
If we continue walking down this way, you can see the portables out the back. This is, these metal plates here, this is the heating pipes run under here. They come out of the boiler room.
They're not overhead, they're underneath?
They're underneath, and then they come out underneath this. You can hear the plate when you get on the floor.
That's not typical boiler, usually they're overhead.
Yeah, that's steam. This section of the building is heated by steam.
Oh, this is like kitchen, right?
Yes, this is, we added these radiators a couple of years ago. There was no heater. But under
Oh,
here
here it
is,
is, yeah,
under here is the
here.
steam traps, and then the condensate runs back to the boiler room. It's quite an antiquated setup.
What about things to say about the door? I don't know.
I have a card swipe, so does Garen,
Oh, you do? Okay.
so does Dr. Adley. So, there's 3 portables here. They sit on blacktop. Music, and this is divided into several, like a workspace, and I don't know what else is in there, Garen. Gifted and talented program, so, you know, multiple uses. These portables are over 20 years old. That portable over there, I believe, there's one here, there's one at Hindley, there's one at Oxbridge that were brought from the high school when the high school was built and opened in 04, 05. They took the portables and brought them and put one in each of these 3 buildings. And this portable over here has had many uses. Food service was located here for a number of years. It's been a classroom, on and off as needed. And this section here is usually called the first grade wing. And that's about, I don't really have anything else about this building. This property here, I will say this property could use some better drainage. It's a little wet as far as property goes. It's got a high water table. There's actually a stream underneath the field. You can see it when we pull out of Royal Road. If you look to your right, you look down, you can see the stream. That stream runs underneath the field and goes out. And the town does have a right of way across part of that property for that stream.
So Mike, that would likely limit any potential use of that field for any building, right?
Yeah, there are catch basins that are like over that stream.
Yeah.
Or near it that are piped into it, and so
that issues and everything like that.
yeah, you'd be limited to, where we are, where the current library is.
Yeah.
Those are kind of your limits, because otherwise you're impinging on the playing field, and that field, it's high school, middle school, and that field. They get a tremendous amount of use. This is used for soccer. It's used as overflow youth soccer. It's used for rugby. And then DJFL, I believe, they're one of their younger teams use it. So it's used quite a bit.
There's also a small plot in some ways, particularly for transportation parking. So that doing that traffic study type thing would be helpful to see what options are available.
And this building and Hindley, you're going to see this is a little better because it doesn't have a big beach at the end of it, but it's a road with no access out except the way you came in, and it's near the intersection, and it's a busy road. So the problems getting in and out of this site are similar to what happens at Hindley in the mornings and afternoons. It's a tough site to get in and out of. So,
Do you want to take a peek at like maybe one of the classrooms that are being right size or so, or
Yeah.
just, I mean, I'll just give you an example.
Take a
of-
look upstairs?
Just,
Yeah.
yeah, well, it's a matter of you gotta, it's this side, because this side's kind of dictated by the stairwell. There's not a lot you can do. You're in between the two stairwells, you have a classroom and you have bathrooms and you have storage rooms. This side, there's 4 classrooms, 2 here, 2 here. They're among the smallest in the district. So the plan would be to combine the 2, make a right-sized classroom, and then make 1 or 2 other instructional spaces like would be used for speech and language pathology, stuff like that.
Oh, right, yeah. Break some sections with kids because they're small. These actually, when I started at Royal, were the big kids were in these classrooms. And so
Really?
we've switched, so these are second graders
Yeah,
now
so we-
because they're smaller bodies.
Yeah, right?
This is the heat. It was just, it was, when they stopped using cast iron radiators, then they went to heating coils.
Yeah.
They put the boxes on them to make people think they still had their cast iron radiators. Okay, that was late 40s to early 50s, but this, 3 or 4 of these in each room constitutes the heating, ventilating, and air conditioning system.
So other than just being close to one another, what are the teachers' complaints of, or the biggest gripes of it being small? What are they being restricted
So
of?
I think in terms of just how to use it as an instructional space, they're really limited to either kids working at their desk or kids working here. And this is a small area to have all of your kids and a teacher doing a mini lesson or doing that direct instruction versus having a little bit more space for the kids to be gathered and the teacher to have room, and then have more space for a small group instruction area and room for kids really to be able to have some flexible seating or working groupings that aren't necessarily at their desk, which really we've moved a lot towards as a district just in terms of best practice and instruction. So it does limit how we're able to kind of capture kids in that instructional space, but this really is small even for little bodies to have 20
Sure.
kids and a
Oh, yeah.
teacher doing a lesson, and then it's close. Yeah.
Yeah, and during COVID, the principal moved the smaller classes in here. The board supported additional class sections to split it up. So, but in general, this is just too small. I mean, we're looking for 750 to 850 range in the ed specs for the classroom sizes. So.
And classrooms that are that big, it's a market difference.
Yeah, so I guess that's what I was asking is
Yeah.
when we go into
Yeah.
working with designers and stuff, what are the teachers looking for? Is it, I mean, you explained it, it was
Yeah.
more, not that I think that this space,
Yeah.
is obviously it's
I
clearly
think
not
more,
adequate.
more room, but more ability to have kind of that flexible instructional space
Yeah.
and these kind of, when you're thinking about core areas for it, like this core area for teachers to gather with their kids for that direct instruction, areas for the kids to be at desks or individual workspaces, and then areas where there can be small group instruction going on. That's what we're able to do in our larger spaces.
Got it.
And frankly, those rooms have, from a practicality standpoint, much more storage for all of the instructional materials. So you don't have as much, they have much more extensive classroom libraries. We aren't doing as much books out, pulling books from storage and switching them out. We're able to have more out for kids all the time.
And when we leave here, if we walk down the hall, you can see the larger rooms. There's 6 on this floor and there's 5 on the floor below.
Yeah, I'm comparing to my
Yeah.
daughter's school's like classrooms and homes,
Yes.
and they're huge.
There were,
Yeah.
I mean,
And, well,
we
the
don't.
ones you'll see in this edition are gonna be the same size as what you
Yeah.
have at home.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I understand what you're saying with the sorry. I
Yeah.
didn't
No,
mean to
just for
interrupt.
reference, the ed specs are for classroom sizes of 850 feet, right? Square feet?
I think it's
They're between
750 to 850, something like
750
that.
to 850,
Yes.
and this room would be what?
This is about 6 635, 650.
Yeah, so you're adding another,
Yeah, 200
you know,
square feet or so.
25% space onto
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
And,
and you can see when you walk down the hall, you'll see the
You
difference.
can make it, you can make them as big as you want in some ways, but when you go to the state, they also like still do their counter, like by square foot per student type thing, which means you just wouldn't get reimbursed for anything beyond what they would say, but.
Yeah, obviously I don't know the ed specs, but part of the reason I ask is just, obviously, if it's too big, the kids get lost, I would assume maybe.
Totally.
And it being
Yeah.
too space, so I'm sure there's
Yeah.
kind of like a Goldilocks type of.
There's definitely that
Yeah.
sweet spot for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think we can capitalize on having a little bit of larger space, both in terms of like how to make it best for kids and teachers with their content, and also just maximize space in the room, have storage. We don't have any storage in this building either, so being able to have all of that at the ready in the classroom is really great, would be great.
How old is the roof?
This roof on this building is from '03,
03?
and 96 is from 96.
So putting down in different units to feed these classrooms.
Yeah, we've got it in the plans to, there's a roof project up at the state right now because we're gonna change the roof, put solar panels.
Got it.
And then, and we did leave enough room for rooftop units. Yes, sir.
Well, I'm just thinking that given the time, I think we'll hit everything here, if you want to get the Henley and squeeze that in before the meeting.
All right. Yeah, no, we can see, you can see the larger classrooms at Hindley, the same 96 edition is there. Okay.
If you want to pop out and see the size of it, that's fine. This building also has two portables at the back that. Three, sorry, that are going to be removed, and it sort of has the same sort of conceptual passability solution they showed drawing a wee bit like Royal, because it's at the end of the building. It has the library, it would have the music rooms and so on and so forth. So on the drawing, it's something similar to that, and there are a few rooms here like Royal have to be right size, and most of those are on the top floor as well.
Okay. That's pretty much about it. This building is the same, the library is a pod off the front of the building. It's actually a little smaller than the library at, there's mechanical out there, exactly. The library here is actually a little smaller than the library at Royal because it doesn't have that classroom type room adjacent to it. It's got a workroom that's actually takes that space. There's three portable buildings here. Two of them are one's a double, a true double, and another one is a little oversized and it's split in half. So they, in Hindley's eyes, they have 5 portables. But it's actually 3 separate buildings, but one of them is as big as the building at home school. And they house the music, they house a regular classroom at times, there's a workroom, there's been 4th grade, 3rd grade, 5th grade overflow classroom has been out there. Portables. 2 of the portables were built when they needed swing space, so in the 1996 edition, and the other portable came from the high school. The 1996 edition, they built 2 additions on this building. In 1976, they built 3 of the classrooms, 1 on this side, 2 on this side, and the entrance was over there then, and then they built the library. And then in 1996, they closed in that entrance and made it a classroom. These were 2 kindergarten classrooms. This was the main entrance. And then they built the wing, the 2-story wing at the end of the building. Same architect, same design, same size classrooms, etc. as Holmes and Royal have in their new addition. The original part of this building is steam heat. The 76 and 96 part, there's 2 heat exchangers in the basement with circulator pumps, and they keep the library, these 3 classrooms. So it's weird, you have like 3 heating systems coming down the hallway. A steam one that stops by the gyms, 1 hot water system that does 3 classrooms, another hot water system that does 3 other classrooms. And then you have 3 heating systems going down the hallway in the other direction, 1 for the 1948 building, 1 for the 76 building, and 1 for the 96. It's not what an engineer would build today. We have the burners here were changed in September and October this year due to the flooding. The boilers are from one's from 95 and one's from 97. The actual cast iron boilers are very old. So we can take a walk and you can see the library. Oh, very bad. And you can see the library, you can see the undersized classrooms upstairs, and then we can see where the proposal is to build. You know, like I said, they looked at various things here, like in this building they looked at making the music room and some classrooms 2 stories where this gym is, and building a full-size gym, taking the library, put it on the back of the building where the portables are. The drawing from NCA shows the library, music rooms, and needed classrooms coming out the back of the building right there.
With that, I'm gonna say keep moving because I think you've got a 6 o'clock meeting.
It'll be like
19 minutes.
Yeah, in fact. I'm gonna turn them all on. But as you can see, this library is a little smaller than Royal Library. It also is a little lower in height, so whereas in Royal they were able to put a finished ceiling in it, this building they could not. The heating and ventilating are these unit ventilators that are ceiling mounted. And there's a third one in the back room that little classroom over there. This space has nowhere to grow because you got the 96 edition, you've got the cafeteria, you got the kitchen actually, and then the cafeteria, and you got the bus loop out front. So there's no way, and this won't support a second story. We've already looked at all that. There's no way to expand this space here. And it's not big enough to be split in half and make 2 usable spaces. It's just not, doesn't meet any of those needs correctly. Okay, and we should keep moving. And so we'll walk down. Let me get these lights. These here are 2 DLC classrooms. They used to be the pre-K ELP rooms. These will become regular classrooms next September of 2022. These 2 spaces will become regular classrooms. That's a half-size classroom. This is the art room. These are 2 second grade classrooms. These are exactly the same as what's at Holmes and Royal in the 96 edition. And what the drawing that's in the front lobby shows is an addition coming out the rear of this building here. Starting there, coming out this way on this blacktop area, and running over this way. And the drawing that's in there shows the far wall of that addition being right about where this ramp is on this portable, right about over here. This would probably be like the corner of the building this way, and then running that way, you'd be over towards the edge of the blacktop. You'd be pretty much in a line with that building there. And you would have library, music rooms, and you would have several classrooms upstairs and several classrooms downstairs. And you gain this ground and this area here back, and you gain the area in front of the school. This room has, this building has underground drainage. We had a broken pipe underground that we didn't know until we had the big flood. There was a broken pipe, and so the water didn't continue down the drain. It went in the building. So that's all been repaired.
Funny how those
walk
things
back
happen.
out.
Yeah, right.
Well, you know, the guy comes every couple of years and we do all the drainage, whole thing, and 1 year it looks fine, and the next year.
Murphy's Law.
Well, what we found was where the gas line was excavated and put in, 8-9 years later, something shifted in the dirt. And instead of the gas line breaking, the water line, the drain line separate. Thank goodness.
I volunteered, it was brought up by friends.
No, it's still the PTO shed they use for the Hindley.
something.
Yeah, but it's still Hindley happening stuff in there. Yeah.
All the dealership was there. I was involved in all that side.
Oh, the one on the other side?
I find like architecture and stuff interesting. Maybe I would. General manager, service manager, sales manager.
No, that's got old PTO furniture.
My grandfather.
I mean, ELP furniture. Yeah, this one has the Hindley happening stuff in it.
My brother. I do most of the stuff.
You know, it's funny to see.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.